Hi there, and welcome to the first book club of 2025, or ever, because this is the first time I've ever done a book club. Thank you so much for joining me on your Saturday evening or daytime, whatever time zone you're in. In the UK, it's the evening here. Is it cool to be talking about books on a Saturday evening? Well, we're going to do it anyway. Thank you for joining me. So, today's book, or for the book of the month that we picked in January, is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. That was the chosen book for this month. So, that is what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited to discuss this. Hello. Oh, good morning, Kale. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning, if it is still Saturday where you are, with me. So, we're going to chat about The Lies of Locke Lamora today. I'm really interested to see what people think to this book. I've already had some mixed opinions throughout the month as you've been updating me on your progress with this. So, I'd be really interested to see what people think. Greetings. Oh, you almost missed it. Thank goodness you found out what time it was. Thought it was an hour later. Oh, well, thank you for joining anyway. I really appreciate that. Yep, good morning, afternoon, and evening. Yeah, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in, good day. We'll say good day. Covers everything. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so obviously, just need to give a disclaimer. I'm sure you're all expecting this and very much so aware, but there will be spoiler discussion in this live stream. I just want to put that out there in case people weren't expecting that. We don't want to ruin anything for people who haven't read the book. But to be honest, if you haven't read the book, I'm not too sure why you'd join the live stream. I mean, I saw somebody the other day who said that they'd read 10 pages of it and wanted to give their discussion on the first 10 pages. So that's even more valuable. So, firstly, has everybody finished this book? And how long did it take you to read it, if you did? Because it actually took me quite a while to read this book. I think it took me about 9 days. That's quite slow for me. About 3 days for Rushy. I mean, how many pages is even in this book? It's what, 530 pages? Yeah, 530 pages. So for it to take me 9 days is, I think, generally slower than I normally spend. Hi, Brian. Finished a couple of days ago. It took you about 8 days. Yeah, so similar timeline to me then. Did people think it was an easy read, or did you think it was quite challenging? Just under a week, loved it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you loved it. And just under a week, yeah. Took a few weeks to get just over halfway, then it kicked a bit. Yeah, that's such a good point. I think the first half of it was what I found the most challenging, and I think that's why it took me a little longer than normal to read it, because I'm not gonna lie, I felt like it was a little bit slow in the beginning, but then that second half, it just went so fast paced. Ryan says he thought it was an easy read, but the interludes were confusing in the beginning. Yeah, I completely didn't know what they meant. And actually, it took me a while to realize that they were a different timeline. Like, I thought at first that they were the same timeline, but just like a different stage of adulthood for Locke. But it turns out I was completely wrong. Rushy says, easier than some that you've read, but definitely not a beginner book. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do not think that this is a beginner book. And especially for beginners to fantasy as well, I don't think that this is a beginner fantasy book. It took me almost a month. English is not my native tongue. That's understandable. And to be fair, I think it's a challenging read anyway, even if English is somebody's native tongue. I mean, I found it quite difficult personally at the start. The interludes really bust my chops. Different timelines was one thing, but it also killed the pace sometimes. That's a really good point. I felt like when things were starting to get juicy and there was a lot of tension, it would then stop the chapter and have an interlude in the middle of it. And then it kind of took me out the storyline. I don't know if anybody else felt that way as well, but that's personally how I felt about the book. Was sometimes the interludes felt just a little bit random. I don't know if random's the right word, but it just kind of took me out of the pace a little bit. Yeah, I agree. The interlude should have been cut from the second half of the book. Yeah, really good point. It took a while to really get going, otherwise not really challenging. Yeah, agree. And I think that that was the first half. I think the first half was what I struggled with the most. And then once things started to pick up and I got used to the author's writing style, then I feel like I sped through the last bit. So I think it was that first half that was just a little bit difficult. Sometimes I wanted to stay in the interlude and learn more about chains, but then it would jump back to the present. Yeah, so it's like a vice versa thing as well. So sometimes the plot was so juicy in the interlude that then when you're going back to the adult version of Locke and what's going on there, it was almost like, well, I actually want to go back to his past now and learn more about what was happening with Father Chains. Exactly, when Jean was about to face off with the Wicked Sisters and then interlude. Yeah, that's a perfect example of that. Just going back to Father Chains, what do you guys think to that character? Because I kind of wanted to know more about him. I actually really, really liked him. I thought that he was one of my favorite part of the interludes. I really enjoyed learning about Father Chains. He might have actually been my favorite character in the book, and I don't know why. He was just very mysterious. The learning interludes with Jean didn't really need to be in the book at all, in my opinion. Yeah, I do agree with that. Could have just been described in a few lines that he was a master fighter and learned it younger. Yeah, I felt like some of those scenes with Jean learning all the fighting and yeah, all of that training that he was doing, I feel like there was more of it than there needed to be. The first couple of interludes were somewhat annoying, but then I quite enjoyed them. Yeah, I agree with that. I liked him, but I liked the yeah. Oh, yeah, the guy who sold Locke, what was he called? Was he the chain master? Was that his what was his name? He had a name and I've completely forgotten what it was. I feel like we didn't get enough from him though. He was like right at the start of the book, and then I was really interested in him and intrigued. And then as soon as he sold Locke, it was like he was gone again. And then we didn't hear from him. I'm curious if we'll learn more about chains in future books because there's a lot that we didn't learn, including about Sabathur. Yes, Sabathur is somebody that I was hoping that we would discuss today because she was referred to a lot, really frequently throughout the book, but then we didn't actually ever see her. Like she was just referred to throughout dialogue, like people talking about her, but we never actually ever saw her in a chapter or a scene. She wasn't involved in the plot at all. And I really want to learn more about her. She's obviously quite an impactful character for Locke, definitely. I love Chains. Also wanted more with the Thief Maker. That's what he's called. Yes, the Thief Maker. I mean, he does have a name, but that's what he is. Yeah, yeah. I think Father Chains was the ultimate con man. I mean, what an absolute G for just lying about being blind the whole time. Brilliant. Love it. I'd have loved to have learned more about him and the young gangs in the graveyard. Yeah, I agree as well. It was weird. I feel like there was a lot of detail in some parts of the book, and then there was not enough detail in other parts. And there's so much mystery that I feel like we could have had some more focus on some of those things, and that would have helped with the world building a little bit more. Would be nice to get to know more about Chains and Sabathur. Yeah, I completely hard agree with that, especially Sabathur, seeing as though she wasn't even, like, in any of the plot, whereas at least we saw a little bit of Chains through the interludes. But yeah, I think he was one of the most intriguing characters for me. I just really liked him, so I definitely want to learn more about him, especially since he obviously passed away, but then we don't really know much about that. We don't really know much about what happened towards the end of his life or anything really. So I think that that would have been something that I'm hoping will be in the next book. Sabathur was the only part of this book which made it feel like there could be more. Otherwise, it could have been a standalone. Yeah, I do agree. Do you know what? When I finished reading the book, I felt like if I didn't know that it was a series, I probably wouldn't have. Like it felt like a standalone. Like there was a start, a middle, and a finish. Like it for me, it felt like the plot had ended. And you're completely right. If there wasn't so much mystery to Sabathur and how she's inevitably going to come up again at some point, I would have thought it was like a standalone. Maybe that's what it was intended to be at first. I mean, are you guys planning on reading the rest of the series, or are you just going to stop just at this one? Oh, Rushy says it's supposed to be a 7-book series. But like A Song of Ice and Fire, it's been a decade since the last book was released. Has it really? Oh, heck. I don't know if I can cope with another series that's unfinished. It's really hard on the emotions. The story felt very self-contained, but then there were some aspects where it felt like Lynch was building for future stories. Yeah, that was like kind of trickled in there a little bit. There was definitely potential for things for him to build on in future books. Yeah, it felt like it needed just the middle and the end and be standalone with that. Yeah. It's kind of standalone, but with many open endings. We'll definitely read on, definitely gonna read on. Yeah. The general consensus that I'm getting is that we're all gonna read on. But yeah, I do it was weird. There was no like there was no what's it like cliffhanger. at the end, it just kind of yeah, it was finished, and that kind of felt like it. But I think the next book is probably gonna have a completely different plot, and I think, like we've said, I think it's gonna focus more on Sabitha. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna focus on many of the characters that we had in this book. Like the what's his name? Well, obviously it's not gonna feature the Grey King anymore. It's I don't think it's gonna focus on Don Salvara. Was that the name of the guy that Locke was trying to con in the main plot? I don't think it's gonna focus on him anymore. So I think it's gonna have a completely different plot. I can't not find out what happens next. Yeah. Woohoo to Josh, you made the stream. Thank you for joining. I already own the next book, so I'll continue, but not right away. Yeah, I've got them as well. I think they're behind me somewhere, but I can't quite see in the webcam whereabouts they are. Oh, I think they might be maybe that. Yeah, that's the second book. My finger can't point to it. That one there. So yeah, I'm gonna read it at some point. I just need to find time. I like to have like a break between series just to like, yeah, kind of feel ready for the next one. So I'm not gonna ruin it for myself by rushing it. I don't think I will read on. It didn't stick the landing for me. Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, I felt a little drained after reading it just because I think the pacing was a bit unbalanced. Like it was so slow at the beginning, and then there was so much tension at the end that I just felt like it was quite a lot. So I did feel a bit like emotionally exhausted after I read it, if that even makes sense. I think that's why I'm going to take a break before I read the next one. So I will read it, but I'm not in like a huge rush to. Who's your favourite character, Becky slash chat? Rip Bug. Oh, Bug. Oh, Bug actually was one of my favourite characters. Actually, I don't know if he was a favourite because he didn't really do a whole lot. He added humour to the book. He added a lot of charisma and personality and obviously tension, but not enough to say he was my favourite character. But I was very sad at how his ending was. Probably Father Chains then. And I did actually quite like Locke. I thought he was quite witty. He made some mistakes for sure, but I did quite like him as a character. He was quite a nice main character to follow, I feel like. And Jean was cool. Yeah, there was a lot of likable characters, I felt. The Grey King motivation character didn't quite land for me, to be honest. He was more interesting when more hidden. The Bonds Mage was interesting, though. Yeah, the Bonds Mage was an interesting character, and also added like actual fantasy elements to the book. Because I'm not going to lie, I was reading it, and halfway through, I was like, "Where's the fantasy? Is it just like the fact that they live in this city that's just very, very different to how it would be in the real world?" But yeah, until the Bonds Mage popped up, there really wasn't actually that many fantasy elements, I felt, in my opinion. Or maybe it's just different to the fantasy books that I've read more recently, where it's very hardcore fantasy and they're kind of throwing all these different like elements in. I felt like Scott Lynch was a lot more stripped back with the fantasy. Tough one. Hold up, he didn't do a whole lot. He threw himself off a building. Okay, okay. He did do a lot, but other characters did more, so he was kind of pushed to the side. I think the Falconer was the most intriguing, just from what he could do and the background of the Bond thingies. Yeah, I agree. He was really cool. I would like to quite know more about the Bonds Mage. There's like this whole like group of them, like clan, because obviously they didn't kill him at the end, did they? They sent him back to where he came from. So I'd quite like to know a bit more about them. I'm hoping there's a little bit more progression with those characters in the next book, if it's relevant to the next plot. I love the plot twist regarding Locke's name. Yeah. And I think as well that adds a lot of speculation because that's never actually revealed, is it? It's never revealed what his name is. It was just kind of a bit of humour at the end between him and Jean. The Bonds Mage was so annoying. Also, why aren't mages ruling the world? At times he felt almost invincible. He was overpowered, yeah. Actually, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. He was so powerful. So why are they working for people? Because it made this big deal about how expensive they are to hire. And, that's how they knew that the Great King was obviously loaded with money because he was just hiring this Bonds Mage for ages. But actually, he was so, so powerful. It's like, why is he not working for himself and just doing whatever the hell he wants, to be honest? Locke getting him was more satisfying than getting the Grey King. Yeah. And that was a good scene, actually. I did enjoy those chapters. Again, that's like at the end of the book, all that tension happened, and it was so juicy. I did enjoy the end of the book. I think it was just the start for me. That Yeah, it was just a little bit slow, I think. He had 3 rings, and we was told there was only ever up to 2 rings. So it's alluded the Falconer is one of the most powerful mages in existence. Yeah, so if he is so powerful, why was he working for the Grey King? Yeah, that didn't add up for me. Maybe I don't know, maybe it's just the way the bonds majors are. They just work for clients and get paid to do it. I don't know. I have the same problem. There's zero reason the bonds major should be working for somebody. Yeah. With all their power, they will control everything and not need to work for money. Yeah. That just didn't make sense to me either. I couldn't quite work out why the Great King was paying him or why the bonds mage was agreeing to be paid. They could, especially if there's more of them. Like it wasn't just the Falconer. Like there's so many more of them. Like at the end, he got sent back to wherever it is that they all hide out. So there's clearly a big group of them. Why are they not just ruling the entire world? Well, I suppose then it wouldn't make for much of a plot, would it? But yeah, I think that was my only thing, and I couldn't quite understand why the Grey King was doing all of this to Locke. So obviously, it was revealed around his backstory with the other guy. What was his name? Was it Don Basavi? Was that his name? The other guy, the other Kappa. That's it. Why? Why was the Grey King bringing Locke into all of that? I didn't quite understand that. So if anybody knows, help a gal out. I didn't quite understand why somehow Locke got messed up into all of that stuff when it's like this beef between the two Kappas. Like I could understand why the Grey King then killed the other guy because he wanted the power, but I just don't understand why Locke was then brought into that. I don't know. Take Locke's money to pay for the bonds mage. Well, yeah, they did rob him actually, didn't they? But I don't think money actually mattered that much to the gentleman bastards. I don't think they really cared about money, to be honest. I think it was more the message behind what they were doing rather than the actual money gained from it. Yeah, it seemed like he just wanted to steal Locke's money to pay the bonds mage. It's kind of weakly tied together. Yeah, because again, that just feels like a weak motive to do all of that to Locke. I mean, he literally murdered Bug, murdered those twins as well, tried to murder Jean, almost murdered Locke, thought he had. All of that for just to rob Locke of his money. Like, why you gotta murder 5 people in order to do that? That didn't quite make sense to me. Yeah, them not caring for money, but that being the Grey King's goal diminished any stakes for me. Yeah, I just think, yeah, I think there should have been some more thought into the motives around some of these characters. It just at the end when it was all revealed and we found out what they were doing and why, it didn't really make much sense to me. I loved the whole pretending to be Midnighter's plot. Yeah, yeah, there were parts of this book that were strong. There were some chapters that I thought were great and were so, yeah, so like juicy and really tied me in. But yeah, I think the overall motives of some of the characters and the overall like ending as well is kind of where it fell a little bit flat for me. But I still enjoyed it. It was still a good read. Yeah, the Midnighter scam plot was cool. Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. And I also, to be fair, going back to the interludes, I quite liked learning about how I think it was when Locke was with were they called the Graveyard people when he was with the thief maker right at the start. I quite liked learning about all the different ways that he would scam people. Like there were when he was like a child, like there were parts where it said about how he would have like a twig in his arm and he'd snap it to make it sound like he'd hurt his arm, and then it would make people come over to him and he would scam them that way. I don't know, there was some real like interesting ways that as a child he was scamming people, and I quite liked that actually at the beginning, just to learn the different like creative ways that he was doing it. Yeah. No, it was. There were some strong parts of the book, but I think there were some weak parts as well, unfortunately. But like I said, I will read the next one just because I've got it and they're there. But I don't know what the plot's gonna be like at all. Yeah, I felt like I was learning how to be an orphan thief, skills for life. Yeah, totally. Like there were so many. Like I could reread that chapter and just try and do them and see if it works. Although maybe we shouldn't be encouraging that, but I mean it worked for Locke. Waiting till Jean gets here. Yeah, that to be fair, that part was quite emotive. Just kind of waiting until, yeah, because it that whole kind of torture scene where Locke was clearly losing that fight, and he was in a lot of pain, and he said his goal wasn't to win the fight, it was just to wait for Jean. I quite liked that. It was basically just buying him time. I did like that bit. Am I the only one who cared more about the general world building and the mystery behind elderlings than the king plot? No, I agree as well. I think that there's more opportunity to build on that in the next book. Like, I just think there's some part that lacks detail and some parts that had too much detail. So I think the balance was a little bit all over the place with that. Actually, I really like the location of the city. It reminded me a little bit of Venice, with all the canals. Like, I'm not sure what the inspiration is behind that city, but there was also like the tournaments and the challenges that these people would do against like the water animals and the water sharks. I quite liked how everything was water based. And obviously you have like the ship market, like the floating market on the water. Oh, it is inspired by Venice. That Okay, cool. That's the vibe I was getting from it. So he's delivered in that sense. I quite liked it. I was curious about it, but we didn't get much in the end. A future society abandoned for a more yeah, to take over is very strange. Yeah. I hope to have my curiosity my curiosity tickled a little bit more by the elderling stuff. I don't know why I like that phrase so much. Yeah, a bit like Game of Thrones overdose. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's Venice. Yeah, okay, cool. So he's delivered in that sense. His description of that clearly hit because that is exactly what went through my mind when I was reading about the location. And yeah, I really liked it. Reminded me of Robin Hobb and the Eldlings too. Guess you didn't realise what time it was. Hope the stream is going well. Thank you very much, Kieran, for joining. I would have loved a map of the city at the front. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I because that's something that I do really like in fantasy books is when they have maps at the front, and then if they're referring to a place, you can just flick back to the front and have a look and see where it is. I love doing that all the time. It helps me to like visualize everything a bit more. So yeah, I would have loved a layout of the city just so you could see where everything was in conjunction to other areas. Because I think as well, didn't they mention what was it called? Was it like the glass tower or something? There was like a really, really tall glass tower thing. I would have liked to have seen that on a map because as you can tell, my description of it isn't great. So I would have liked that to have been visualized. Oh, you managed to find some maps online to help you, otherwise you would have been totally lost. Oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? That's such a good idea. I should have just Googled it. I might do that after this stream, actually. In general, a fantasy book without a map can go whistle. Yeah. Like, what fantasy book doesn't have a map these days? I can't remember the last time I picked one up other than Lies of Locke Lamora. That must have been the last book that I read that hasn't had a map in the front. I also enjoyed the spider plot. What happened with the spider again? See, I can't even remember that plot. Callum, what was the spider plot? Why have I forgotten that? The countess did. Oh, the woman, the old woman. Yes. Oh, and they had the statues that had the powder in them that was gonna blow up the entire castle thing, the tower. Why did I forget? See, I don't understand the relevancy of that plot though, because the Grey King was there, wasn't he? But I don't really understand why he was trying to do that. Was he just trying to kill everybody in the city? The spider was one of the best characters. Yeah, it was. It was that old woman, wasn't it? I remember now. The old Duchess. Yeah. It was the Grey King's revenge. But did he not already get his revenge by killing Kappa Basavi and murdering his children in front of him and yeah, stealing all of his people and his money and his wealth? Was that not revenge enough? Why has he then got to kill everybody in the city? Because surely his beef was with this Kappa guy, wasn't it? He wanted the nobles too. But why though? Just why? This is what I mean. It just didn't quite make sense to me. It's still good, but I just didn't understand the lengths that he went to for the motives. It was a bit far fetched, I think, because they benefit from the secret piece. Yeah, you were paying attention when you read this book. Maybe I need to reread it already. I've forgotten half of it. I'm joking. But yes, now that you've reminded me, the spider storyline was good. It was like a little addition at the end. This is part of the root of the problem for me. I wasn't sure what the story was. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Like, if somebody asked me what the book was about, I don't even know what I would tell them. There's like at least three different main plots in one, surely. Yeah, was it a heist, a quest, spy thriller, murder mystery, all of the above? Every single one. Locke persuading them to sink the ship for offering was great. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do think that is one thing that I liked was Locke's persuasion and obviously his lies. The book is The Lies of Locke Lamora. And I did like the way that he was lying to people, especially at the start of the book when he's doing this con with the Salvaras, I believe their names are. And he like identifies as somebody else to warn them against him. So he's like playing two different people. And when I worked out that that person who'd broken in and told them to, like, was warning them against him, when I found out it was actually him, I don't know, I just thought it was fun. I thought that I liked his character and I thought it was different to characters I've read about before. None very satisfying. Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, there was just so many plots in this book. So many. The whole heist seemed to be an elaborate way of world building. Mm, that's a good take on it. Yeah, there was a lot of description and world building in this book, I would say. I think it's very, very heavy on the description. I actually felt there wasn't really that much dialogue, like not really much at all. There wasn't really like conversations, I felt like. It was a lot of like description of people's actions and the locations and the environments. It was very, very descriptive. Um, which it's I mean, it depends what people's preferences are. I don't mind a bit of description. I quite like a balance between the two. I think that's why I thought it was quite a challenging read at the start was because it was so descriptive of the location and I didn't really know much about the world yet, but it was so descriptive. I found myself laughing a lot throughout. The prose was juicy. Yeah, juicy prose. I've got a great book recommendation for you. It's mine and my friend's favourite, Hungry Caterpillar, defo 10 out of 10. Thank you, Kieran, for your very serious book recommendation. I think we should pick that for the March book club. Let's all read The Hungry Caterpillar. The language was very juicy indeed, yeah. I love describing things as juicy. One other thing that bothered me was the last part of the book. It felt like Pirates of the Caribbean meets Mission Impossible to American-y. Apologies to anyone from across the pond. Somehow I kind of understand what you mean. It does. It does feel what is the right word for yeah, American-y, it does. Yeah, if anybody else understands, I think I get yeah. It just I don't know if far-fetched is the word, over the top, I don't know. There was just some I think it was just a lot. I think overall it comes down to the pacing. I think the pacing was just a bit off. It wasn't quite as balanced. It wasn't like consistent throughout. It was like a very slow start and then boom, all of this stuff right at the end and like three different plots that it's trying to wrap up all in the space of a few chapters. Yeah, it was a lot. I never heard any characters with non-American accents. What did people think of the ending? Like, was you satisfied with the ending, or was it unsatisfying? Um, I don't really know how I feel about it. Just joined the stream. What's up, Becky? Hello, nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Everybody, if you like Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire content, you should subscribe to the BookTube Advocate. Makes 10 out of 10 videos every time. Just plugging him there. He didn't pay me to say that. I just like his videos. Felt like it missed the ending. No, yeah, I think it did. It tied stuff up. Like it tied up loose ends. But again, I think there was just too much going on. There was just so much stuff that I just felt drained afterwards. You're very welcome. Yeah, like I say, I will read the next one, but this felt like a standalone, and I think it tied up everything at the end. And I think it's not, like, persuading you to read the next book enough. Like, normally with a series, you'll have something at the end that makes you wanna read the next one, or there is, like, a plot twist or a cliffhanger that's gonna make you wanna pick up the next book. I don't necessarily feel like this one does that. I feel like you could leave it as it is, and I think the only reason why I will read the next book is because I have it already, and because I struggle to not finish a series. But like I said, if I didn't know that it was a series, I wouldn't be that inclined to pick up another one of it, if that makes any sense at all. It felt like a video game ending when you know you have played all the good stuff and it just wants to finish. Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it, actually. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, yeah, let's all agree with that. That is a very good way of describing it. The end felt slightly rushed to bam, 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 end. Yes, that's another good way of describing it. It was. And that again, it goes back to the pacing. Like, we had that whole half book of build up, slow progression, slow build up, and then everything is, like, cinched into the last half, and then it just ends. Like, everybody dies, and then it ends, and that's how the book is. Scott Lynch is a video game designer, so is that true? Oh. Well, if you could create, like, a video game location that is set in Comore, is that the location that this is? That would be kinda cool. I can imagine, like an Assassin's Creed in, like, a Comore stuff. Like, this is where you all tell me there's already an Assassin's Creed that's set in Venice. Then I sound really dumb. But that would be quite cool. I liked the location. I think that was a strength of the book. Yeah. I do. I think the location was one of its strong points. I just thought that was interesting. I thought it was unique, very water based, and yeah, like we say, heavy roots in Venice. I thought that was cool. I did like the idea of all the different thieving gangs, like that there were multiple different squads isn't the right word, but like gangs and of all these con artists and thieves. I liked that. I just think there was other stuff that left much to be desired, I think. How are you finding running a book club? Knowing other people are reading the same book as you and want to discuss with you, did you feel like you rushed the book to make sure you read it in time? I'm enjoying the book club. I think it's nice that we're all reading like the same book. It's so good. It's because then when you're reading the book, you know that other people are as well, and then you want to share your opinions on it. So I do. I like hearing other people's opinions about the book that I am reading as well. And then it's also really insightful because there's other things that I didn't necessarily think about that other people have. So it's like it gives me like lots of food for thought. I don't feel like I rushed the book because I knew when the live stream was. So I started this book at the start of January. So really, I gave myself about 25 days to read the book, which I knew I was going to do. However, the next book club book is Dune, and I've heard that's quite long and quite difficult to read. So for that one, I might have to set myself some goals to make sure that I read it in time. Yeah, I don't know how I'm feeling about that one. Do the characters in this book jump from 10-story buildings and are completely fine after landing in a small bed of hay like in Assassin's Creed? Yeah, actually, the little 12-year-old boy jumps from a roof, doesn't he? Lands in a bed of hay. Actually, he lands in a barrel. You know what? I've got a feeling that Scott Lynch played a lot of Assassin's Creed before writing this book. I'm getting similarities from it. I think we know what his inspiration was. I think Lynch should hire George R. R. Martin to write the history of Locke's world. He's so good at writing prequels. I mean, Lynch has clearly taken a lot of George R. R. Martin's stance on things. I mean, what did somebody say earlier? It's been 10 years since the most recent book was released. Why are these people making us wait so long? At least I'm in no rush to read the next one in this series because it's an unfinished series, so we can take our time with it. But yes, that is very annoying. We can all write a strongly worded letter to these writers and tell them to get their next books out, please. What did people think of Scott Lynch's writing style, actually? Because, like I said earlier, it was very, very descriptive, and I felt like there wasn't like a whole lot of dialogue. Like some authors are much more dialogue based, others are much more description based. What did you guys think to his writing style? I'd be interested to know. Could have done with some editing, but he has a way with words. Yeah, he does have a way with words. How do you feel like it should have been edited out of interest? Brian says, "I like the writing style other than the interludes." Yeah. I think I think it was a challenging read. Like we say, I definitely wouldn't recommend this for a beginner to reading. Like, if somebody wants to get into reading and they don't do it that often, I would not recommend this book for that. But I do think that the way he describes things is very strong. I don't know. I think it was like like I said, the locations, the environments, the way that he describes was, yeah, quite majestic. I did like it. He puts words together quite nicely. What do we think might be next for the Gentleman Bastards? Honestly, anything. I mean, they had about 5 different plots in this book. They could get up to anything. I mean, they need to recruit, let's be honest, because half of their members are now dead, so they do need to recruit more more people into the Gentleman Bastards. Because 'cause isn't it only the 2 of them now? They need to get some new people in their squad. Maybe that's what the next book will be about, recruiting. The writing was okay. I was immersed, so I'd say I liked the prose. Yeah, there were a lot of chapters where I did feel immersed in it, and I felt like I could visualize it well. Like, I kind of could visualize the rooms that they were in, what the people look like, the personalities, and like the charisma of different people. I felt like he described all of that very, very well. It's just whether or not it aired on the side of being too much, a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it was sometimes it was a smidge too much description. What does it say about us that we were rooting for thieves? Yeah, but I don't know, they were likable. That's it. Like, obviously, we shouldn't be rooting for thieves, but I think both Locke and Jean were likable. I did like them. They had a bit of banter between them too. Did anybody else think that the way that they interacted with each other was quite fun? Yeah, I enjoyed those 2 as being like buddies and being friends. I think their banter was really fun. It was interesting to read. Mostly immersed, yeah, but sometimes drowning in prose, yeah. Sometimes it was just a little bit too much, a smidge too much. I was also glad that it was an omniscient viewpoint because I don't feel like I see as much of that in recent books. Yeah, actually, I agree. I wonder if that's like a trend now where everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And this one felt different, which was nice. It was a different style of book to what I've read recently, which is actually really nice because I like to switch it up. I don't like to be too stagnant in the same writing style and the same kind of book all the time. So I felt like this worked. They were sort of Robin Hoods though, weren't they, targeting the 1%? Yeah, because it was. They were targeting just rich people, weren't they? They were, and they had a principle and a motive behind that, which made sense. Because again, they weren't doing it for money. They were doing it more for like a message, like a strong message. So I did like that, and I think that's why we can root for them because they kind of had morals behind the thieving, if that makes any sort of sense. They had some good morals behind their immoral actions. Also, the reasons behind the story stalling between George R.R. Martin and Lynch are quite different. With George R.R. Martin, it seems like he got slightly stuck and then the money and fame got to him. Lynch, on the other hand, had a lot of mental problems. Ah, okay, yeah, so they've got very, very different reasons then. That's understandable for Lynch. If I'm being honest, for George R.R. Martin, I think he just wants to retire. Again, he's earned his money, he's had his career. I think he just wants to do his TV production stuff and then retire. I think he hasn't got the brain bandwidth right now to think about how he's going to finish this incredible world he's created. It's a lot of brain power, and I don't think he's going to have it in him. Controversial opinion, but I just think he wants to just relax now, to be fair. And why not? He's earned his money, he's had his stamp on the world, he's had his legacy. Fair dues. But like you say, Scott Lynch, on the other hand, it sounds like he's had barriers in his way that he can't control. So that makes sense as to why it's taken him a while to get a book out. It must be quite difficult to write a book when you've got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, just not giving back to the poor. Yeah, it's not really stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. It's more just stealing from the rich and keeping the money and doing nothing with it. So it just sits in a room. I hope he has an envelope in his desk that will tell us everything if he does pop off before finishing. I so hope that as well. I don't know, like, I personally feel like he's just under so much pressure that it's too much, and he just doesn't know. Like, he'll have a lot of ideas. Like, he'll have progressed so much of what we know. Like, that he'll have a lot of stuff written down. So we will get some stuff from him, but I just think he's never going to have a conclusion. I don't think he's decided what the conclusion is going to be yet because I just don't think he has the brain power right now to do that. It was the first heist book I've read. Anyone read anything like that before? I personally haven't. So I think it was the first heist book that I've ever read as well. Yeah, I've never read one. And again, I enjoyed it. It was a different book for me, but overall I enjoyed it. I know we've talked a lot about the flaws, but yeah, overall I did really enjoy this book. Does Mistborn count as a heist book? I've never read Mistborn actually. Otherwise, The Great Train Robbery by Michael Crichton was a good one. Nice. Some good recommendations there. I would be interested to read another heist book. He still puts stuff out, right? Like the House of the Dragon stuff and Dunk and Egg. Yeah, he does. He does put some stuff out. So I don't even remember when the Dunk and Egg novellas came out. Some of them are quite old. But yeah, I think he mentioned about doing Fire and Blood and Fire, like the second Targaryen line of rulers book. But I think that must be easier for him because it's not like a story; it's more like a written historical textbook, isn't it? So for that, because it feels more like a non-fiction piece, it might be a little bit more manageable for him to write. So I feel like we'll see that. Like I feel like we'll see Blood and Fire. And I hope we see some more Dunk and Egg if we're not going to get any Winds of Winter or definitely not Dreams of Spring. That is not coming out. Mistborn 1 is a heist book. Nice. I've never read I've never read Mistborn before. What is everyone's rating of Lies? Despite everything I wrote here, I gave it a 4.25. Yeah, I gave it a 4. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, I did really enjoy it. And I think it is a strong book. It doesn't feel like a 3 star. Like anything below a 4, I felt like I don't think that does it justice. I do think it was a really good book overall. It was just challenging, and the pacing was a bit off. And I think there's potential for progression, like more plot progression and world building in the next book. So I will read the next one. I think it's less George R. R. Martin not knowing how it ends and more he doesn't know how to get there without it seeming forced. Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure to finish it, and I just don't know how anybody ever could, especially like, and he's obviously a brilliant person, put him on a pedestal, but even him, I don't know how he's going to finish that. I gave it a 4.5, gave it a 4. Ooh, out of 5, a charitable 3. Yeah, so it's not very low scores then overall. So generally, we've all rated it pretty decently, and I think that's right. It's a decent book, like it is. It really is not a poor book by any means. I mean, even if you do enjoy the plot, I think we can say that Scott Lynch is a talented author. Like I think yeah, it was a good read. I would read more by him, and I will. Just not anytime soon. 5 out of 5 for the profanity though. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm still trying to work out whether or not I can put the word bastard into into YouTube titles or if I'm gonna get banned for it. So this was quite a difficult one to pick as a book club pick. Just don't want to get banned for saying the name of the actual series. It's not bad, just not great. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I would just say it's good. I would say it's good. It's not great. It's not like brilliant. It's not phenomenal, but it is good. I think that sums it up. Think for a debut, it's very good. Yep, hoping the sequels improve. Yes, and I actually do have a feeling that the sequels will be better. Actually, I don't know why. I've just got a feeling the next book and the third, I will think are probably a bit better. Because, like you say, this is like a debut. It's like an introductory book to the characters, really. Um, yeah, a strong one for a debut. Absolutely. Yeah, for a debut, good point. That's quite impressive. Yeah, I do agree with that. And I do think that a lot of authors do improve over time as well. Like sometimes their later works and later ones in the series are just so incredible. Like that's not a new thing. Like that's like so many authors are like that. So I feel like for Scott Lynch, that might be the case, where this one was decent. It was a good start to the series, but I just have a feeling the other two are going to be a lot better. So for that reason, I am excited to pick up the next ones. Yeah, it'd be good. So obviously we've picked the February book club pick already, if you weren't aware. So on the poll that I did, the general winner was Dune, so by Frank Herbert. Which, do I have that behind me? I do, don't I? Is that it? Yeah. Okay, cool. I have it behind me. So that is the one that we're going to be reading. So if you want to join the February book club, grab a copy of Doom, and yeah, we'll read it before the 22nd of February, because that's when the live stream will be for that. If you've already read it, please feel free to come along to the live stream, share your thoughts on it. Doesn't have to be a recent read. But yeah, I'm a bit daunted by that one because I've heard it's difficult. And it's sci-fi, isn't it? Is Dune sci-fi? We're not doing small 250-page books, are we? Hey, I mean, I didn't have a choice. I put it out there to you guys, and that was the winner. So you guys are doing this to me. You want us all to read very challenging books for the book club. Dune is sci-fi. Okay, cool. So I don't think I've read sci-fi before. I don't think I have. I'm just trying to rack my brains in case I'm lying, but I definitely don't think I've read sci-fi before. Oh no, if you thought Locke Lamora had a confusing start, Dune throws you in the deep end. Oh goodness. It's not an easy read. Oh, this is gonna be hard. Hello, thank you for joining the stream. Nice to see you. Yeah, this is gonna be hard. I think the discussion that we have for Dune might be an interesting one. Maybe I should start reading it tonight. Now I'm worried I'm not gonna read it in time by the 22nd. I've got about a month, haven't I? And yes, Rushy, the same time. So obviously 7 p.m. in the UK. So whatever time zone this live stream started for you, it will be the same one in the February one as well, on the 22nd. And if you guys have any other recommendations of books that you would like us to pick for the book club, then please let me know, because this isn't my book club, it's ours. That sounded a bit cheesy. Sorry, guys. But it's a community thing, and I like to read books at the same time as other people, because then we can chat about it. This has been nice. So yeah, let us know if there's any books that you want us to do for the book club. Dune just takes some time to learn the world, but once you adjust, it starts to come together. Okay, cool. So I might just need to make sure that my brain is completely clear, not clogged up with anything, completely refreshed, go into Dune and process everything. What was suggested earlier, The Hungry Worm or something? Yeah, we can read The Hungry Worm. I think that's a sequel to The Hungry Caterpillar. So we could read both of those. I think the books are about 10 pages long. So we could read The Hungry Caterpillar and The Hungry Worm. When will we do a poll for March? Will it be the same choices with a different book to replace Dune? So i.e. Dark Tower and the First Law books, which got voted for a lot and finished second and third. Yeah, so I will. Yeah, I think there was quite a few votes for the Stephen King book, Dark Tower, and the Joe Abercrombie First Law books. So I will probably put those in the poll as well, just because they did get quite a few votes by other people. And then that leaves us with another 2 options, because it's a 4-option poll. So we will see if you guys have any book recommendations, then we might put a couple of those into the poll. But otherwise, people can vote in the comments as well if there's something else that you want to see. Little Women. Did I read Little Women? I feel like I read Little Women like ages ago. And there was a movie that came out as well not too long ago. That would be very, very different to The Lies of Locke Lamora. Hungry Caterpillar, perfect. Yeah, great. Let's all grab a copy of The Hungry Caterpillar and read that. That'll be a much better read than Dune, I'm pretty sure. Babel, why have I heard that book before? Maybe you've recommended me that book before. I feel like I wrote that down. I feel like I did write that down, didn't I? Yeah, somebody definitely recommended me Babel before. It's a standalone and was one of the best books of 2023. That would be a cool one. Maybe we add that one to the poll. Name of the Wind. Cool. Hungry Caterpillar is at my reading level. Awesome. You can join the March book club then. Hungry Caterpillar and the Hungry Worm, if that one exists. I've heard good things about the Jade Legacy series, the first one. Oh, Jade City. I have heard good things about Jade City. Haven't read them yet, so I'd recommend that for the poll. Do you know what? That is a very good shout, because I have actually seen quite a lot of people talking about that online. So that might be like quite a popular book at the moment that we could maybe pick. Yeah, maybe we should have that in the poll. Cool. So we've got Babel and Jade City that we can add to the poll. Sorry guys, I'm just writing this down. Maybe we should do that. Okay, cool. Well, I think we can add those to the poll then for March. So Jade City and Babel is the two new additions. Yeah. So I think then what we'll have is we'll have Babel, Jade City, the Dark Tower, and the Blade itself, because that's the first one in the in First Law, isn't it? Oh, maybe we should do that. God, I'm getting excited for March's book club pick, and I've not even read February's yet. Why did we pick Dune? Why did I even put Dune in the poll? I'm so annoyed at myself for even putting it in as an option. I think it's going to be so hard. Dune is great. Yeah, there's no doubting that. I've heard that Dune's fantastic. I've heard it's great. And to be honest, I wanted to read it so I could watch the movie. Yeah, a lot of people voted for it. It was definitely a majority vote went for Dune. Yeah, it's influenced a ton, so it's definitely worth it. Yeah, and it has been on my TBR for ages, so I think it's about time that I finally read it. So I'm glad that the people who voted on the book club poll influenced me to start reading it. But yeah, I think probably not great to pick the shortest month of the year to read it in, but still got a month. I can read it in a month, and I think it'll be great. And I think it'll be one of those immersive reads as well, where I'm like fully invested in it. Dune is a slow burn, which then goes nuclear in the last 50 pages. Whew, I'm excited. Reads like a fantasy as well. Ooh, okay, cool. And I'm very excited because it's a sci-fi. And one of my book goals for this year was to read more sci-fi or just to read more genres in general that just aren't fantasy. I feel like all I did last year was read fantasy. So it'd be nice to just and I do love fantasy, but it'd be nice to just branch out a little bit and do something a little bit different. So if Dune kind of reads like a fantasy, but it's actually a sci-fi, then that always like a nice introduction to something else. Are you planning on doing more live streams on this channel / on others? Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a few live streams on other people's channels actually, very, very soon. So very shortly, I mentioned BookTube Advocate earlier on. Going to be doing some conversations with him and Grease Goblins, who I mentioned in a previous live stream too, talking all things A Song of Ice and Fire. So that'll be coming up. There's some other stuff in the pipeline in terms of chatting to other YouTubers, because why not? It's nice to have a community of people who have the same interests as well. And then on my own channel, obviously, we do have the monthly book club live streams. But if people just want other general chats, let me know, because I'm happy to do this. And again, thank you very much for spending your Saturday chatting with me. It's been fun. BookTube Advocate, Grease Goblins. When's that one? That one is when is that one? We do have an initial date, but nothing's been booked yet. I think we have a date when we're all free, and I believe maybe it's next week or the week after. It's on Grease Goblin's YouTube channel, so they will advertise it when we've actually confirmed that we're going to be doing it. I mean, we're going to be doing it, but it's more of just when we're all free. We need to set a time when we're going to have the conversation. So it'll be on Grease Goblin's YouTube channel if you're interested. To keep an eye out on there, because that'll be coming up within the next week or so. I see frequently on TikTok people live streaming just reading. Is this something you'd do on TikTok? I would do that actually. I saw the people who do like a Sunday read with me, and they literally just film themselves reading. But then it's quite nice because you can read at the same time. So that's kind of nice, is it? I mean, it's no extra effort for anybody else. Like if you're going to read anywhere, then it just means that you're reading with somebody. So why not? There's no harm, is there? No harm in doing something like that. And I suppose that's the only thing about reading that maybe is a downside, is if you're on your own and then you just kind of, I mean, sometimes that's nice because it's peaceful, but sometimes it's nice to just sit with somebody and you can both read together. That can be nice. So I feel like what we're doing, we're coming up towards an hour. So I think that's kind of probably enough book club chat. I think we've had some really insightful thoughts on the Lies of Locke Lamora. There's a lot to think about. Um, and yeah, all made some really good points. But I feel like overall, we've all agreed it's a decent book, isn't it? Like, I'd recommend it to somebody who is an avid reader, just not a beginner, and I would read the next. And I think we all kind of agree a similar thing, which is good. Booktubers are doing that also. They call it sprinting, group reading streaming. It sounds really like chill, like really relaxing. And it can't be difficult to just like if I, for example, if I'm gonna read anyway, why not just set my camera up and film it? It's not, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of it. It feels like chilled. Would you join a sprint then? Yes, I would join a reading sprint. No other type of sprint. Don't have the energy for that. Not running a marathon anytime soon. But yeah, I think that is probably everything for this club chat. Does anybody else have anything else that they wanted to say that they're bursting to say about the Lies of Locke Lamora? I think I've said everything I wanted to say about it. Yeah, we've said our favorite characters, favorite parts of the book, what we liked, didn't like. I think that's everything I wanted to say about it, to be honest. But if anybody else has anything else they want to say, then I'll give a couple minutes before I end the stream, just in case. Lovely book cover. I do agree. Oops, wrong bit. I do agree with that. I like the front cover. It's kind of mysterious. It's, yeah, I think it's a little bit creepy. I like it. Stream, set a timer, read, then interact with chat, then sprint, etc. Yes, everything you just said. So stream on here, set a timer, read, Dune, maybe, then interact with the chat, then sprint. Yeah, okay. That sounds like a plan. You can coordinate these streams for me, Rushy. You've got it all figured out. I need somebody like you to organize this for me. Awesome. I think I'm probably going to end the stream then. Thank you so much for joining me today. That was so much fun chatting about the book. I hope you enjoyed the first month of the live stream, of the book club even. This is your first stream. Yeah, for the book club, this is the first stream. Yeah. It's I did do a 2,000 subscriber celebration and live stream a couple of weeks ago, which was my first proper live stream. But this is the first one for the book club. And it was fun. It was nice to have you all here chatting about The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I hope to see some of you in the February one on the 22nd if you want to chat about Dune. Yeah, and good night, everybody, or good morning, good day. Have a brilliant rest of your day. And thank you all so much. It was so much fun. See you soon. Bye, guys. Bye.